In this video, we're going to learn how to knit a leg warmer, and this is a great first project for using your ribber. We're going to start with the Juana's Selvage cast on with a 1x1 rib, then transition back to stockinette to crank the length of our leg warmer, move again to 1x1 rib, and then I'll show you how to do the final bind off. This is designed to be a crank along, so I hope you'll grab your supplies and come join me. You're going to need fingering weight sock yarn, and we always recommend yarn with at least 20% nylon. Depending on the size of your leg warmers, you might be able to get a pair out of a standard 400-yard skein, although for our adult pair of leg warmers, we actually used 500 yards in a skein that we found from Miss Babs. There are a few different dyers that make those little bit larger sock yarn skeins. You're also going to want some waste yarn in a sharply contrasting color, but about the same weight. So again, if you have a thin sock yarn or project yarn, you're going to want a thin waste yarn as well. Tools that we always use, of course, include a setup bonnet, but you can just use a scrap tube of knitting if you don't yet have a setup bonnet. You'll need a set of soft weights. I have a heavy, medium, and light. I mainly use the medium, and on the 2.0 machine, just under 2 pounds, I find to be the most ideal, with a cable ring, of course. And then from this set of tools, I have the loom tool, which is a little less sharp. I have a pick tool, which is very sharp, a latch tool, some darning needles. I always keep my screwdriver nearby, a pair of tweezers for picking up drop stitches. And then it's often handy to have some weighted clips. For measuring gauge, I like to have 2 stick pins and a ruler. Today I'm knitting a set of child-size leg warmers, so I'm going to use the 60 needle cylinder. When I did the adult size, I used the 72 needle cylinder. And just as a point of comparison, I would normally knit with a 60 needle cylinder for socks for me, and then the 72 needle cylinder was the right size for leg warmers for me. You'll also want to make sure you have your ribber stop installed, and if you're using the compound cylinder, obviously it's the smaller one. If you're using a Tuttle cylinder, it's the bigger one. And as a reminder, this shorter end gets installed right on top of the bolt connector that has the X on it. You'll also need your ribber all set up and ready to go with the dial that matches the number of cylinder needles. So if I'm using the 60 needle cylinder, I need the 30 needle ribber dial. Before we get started with our project, I wanted to make sure we're oriented the same way as I'm sharing directions, and these are the same ones that we use in our written patterns. So I think of the machine itself as a clock. So 12 o'clock is up here. I'm right in front of the row counter. And I get this question a lot. I mean on the part of the camshell that does not move. So people often ask if the 12 o'clock is on the cylinder, but of course the cylinder moves, so that's hard for me to wrap my head around how 12 o'clock would keep spinning around. So for me, and in all of our videos, 12 o'clock always means right here at the top, no matter what's happening with the cylinder. So then 6 o'clock is down here right in the center, 9 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. I often have instructions to stop with the main mark at 4 o'clock, and in my mind that's about, it's roughly here between the cable post and the side of the side gear. And then I often also provide instructions to stop with a particular mark at the break in the yarn feeder. And so I mean right here, where the yarn goes out through the little split in the yarn feeder. If we then look at the cylinder itself, there's a whole page on the Dina Bean site for marking your cylinder, and it has diagrams for every size cylinder for how many needles go between the marks. And of course, you can use any color you want. On our videos, it's always consistent that black is the main mark, red is the halfway mark, and then there are 4 target needles marked, And on ours, those are always pink. So there are 2 here at the top and 2 here at the bottom. And those are the ones you use for when you're making heels and toes. You would decrease down to those points and then back out again. And then there are wedge heel targets, which primarily we use for the Susan sock pattern if you want to do a little bit of a deeper heel like that wedge heel is. The final reference I use often is I will say to go to the right or left of a particular mark. And I always mean when looking at the cylinder from the outside. So if this is the main mark and I'm referencing the needle to the right of the main mark, it's this needle. Okay, so the one to the right when you're looking from the outside of the cylinder. Visit us at deanandbean.com and please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.